Many months ago, I did a video of vintage XCOM and its increasingly weird incarnations. And in passing, I mentioned that of the XCOMs, Apocalypse is my favourite. It's time to spend a worryingly self-indulgent 20 minutes or so explaining why. And no, it's not just about having one of these excellent vintage micropost manuals. It comes down to three very Timberwolf things: weirdness, modding, and physics. Apocalypse is a weird XCOM. Well, as previously discussed, everything between Terror from the Deep and the 2012 reboot is a weird XCOM. And it's not like Terror from the Deep is exactly in calm waters when it comes to that weirdness quotient. But Apoc was the first one that made fans of the series stand up and say, "It's not a real XCOM, is it?" Mostly to themselves, because the internet was still seen as a bit of a pointless niche thing, and if you wanted to broadcast your gaming opinions to millions, then you'd have to write into Digitizer, and potentially get sassed by Biffo and Hares. The problem for serious business XCOM fans, and the revelation for me, was the introduction of a little extra button on the mission start screen. Begin real-time game. Now, I will admit there's a lot of games I'm not particularly good at. Turn-based XCOM is one of those. It's one of those a lot. I simply don't have the kind of brain which allows me to methodically evaluate what position each of my squad members is in, and what their best option is. So, I inevitably miss something obvious, and then, because XCOM is turn-based, I get to watch that mistake happily play out with no ability to exert any further influence on half my team getting wiped out, due to a single boneheaded tactical error on my part. Incidentally, a feeling Digitizer shared, going against the high-scoring orthodoxy of the rest of the gaming press at the time, for both the original and Terror from the Deep. Sadly, despite the sterling efforts of Chris Bell over on Superpage 58, and the many people turning in VHS tapes with old Teletext encoded on them, I can't find if Digitizer ever reviewed Apocalypse, or what they thought of it. You'll just have to settle what I think of it. But I digress, into my well-worn topic of context, and the archival thereof. Let's go back to real time, and its consequences. In the first couple of XCOMs, I utterly sucked, because I'd get myself into situations and not have enough turn units to get out of them. And in the game. Whereas in Apocalypse, I can spot something bad happening and immediately pause, rethink the plan of action, and come out, if not unscathed, then no more scathed than a typical round of XCOM, as played by someone competent. Besides this, real-time is not entirely an accurate description, because even in this mode, you spend a lot of time with the game paused while you work out what to do next. And that's not just me. With the default settings, the game will pause itself every time even the most minor thing happens, just in case you want to check it out. It's possibly best described as more of a hybrid mode. Come up with a plan while the game is paused, let it play out until you want to change approach, then pause again to come up with a new plan. Well, you can still play it fully real-time, but that's a fast way to get all of your agents brain sucked over the course of a single mission. Now maybe this results in an unsatisfying game for the kind of people who can tackle any challenge, other than maybe seeing a difficulty slider in an options menu, but it was a satisfying game for me, and that's the opinion which counts in a Why Apocalypse is my favourite XCOM video. But the other weirdness was the setting. Apocalypse scales down and concentrates its game geography, another controversial change. rather than an entire globe, and tactical missions taking place over an entire rural town or several city blocks. Here, your strategic view is a single city, Megaprimus, and the tactical level is down to a single building. For me, this makes it so much less abstract. Rather than some arbitrary Europe being annoyed because you didn't do enough terror missions, Cyberweb are annoyed because you shot up a load of desks and partition walls while trying to discourage some aliens from taking up permanent residence. That far future office furniture be expensive, yo! And this isn't just me making up flavour for a good story. Corporations in Apocalypse do indeed track property damage caused in both the cityscape and tactical missions. They pay for it from their own funds, and this has an impact on what equipment they can purchase and deploy in the cityscape. And they don't just do this for XCOM. Each corporation has a relationship value with every other corporation in the game, and they will wage war against each other if said relationship falls low enough. I love this feeling in a game, that you're part of a world which will continue to function without any action from you. If XCOM does nothing, you can watch as Megapol puts up a hopelessly inadequate fight against the aliens, the alarms increasing, and then falling silent as gradually more corporations become infiltrated. Which they will do. Possibly even if XCOM does try to do something. Apocalypse is still thoroughly part of the series when it comes to the sense of tension and hopelessness, especially because early weapons are in short supply, and often a mission will be just as much about conserving ammunition as it is capturing live aliens and keeping the threat at bay. The game enforces this by reacting to your score. Do too well in the early weeks, and the aliens will be given a huge force of powerful UFOs, which can be a problem, as if the alien tech advances before you've been able to capture low-level UFOs and equipment, the game will become unwinnable if you've been unable to research key technologies. Unless you edit it. See, I bought Apocalypse around the same time as I signed up for everyone's favourite society-destroying waste of money. And one of the first things I did, after a few too many failed missions, was look for some save editors and general tools for game mechanics and the cheating thereof. On reflection, this kind of nonsense is probably why I'm not good at games. There were 4 editors that I ended up flitting between, as each of them had some piece of functionality not available in the others. Midnight Editor, FDsoft and Lazar's XCOM Apocalypse save game editor, Overkill, and Apoct. For maximum efficiency of workflow, Apoct and Midnight Editor were both Windows applications, but for some reason, despite the README claiming it was fine, Overkill would fail to run in a Windows 95 DOS prompt for me, requiring a full reboot to DOS in order to work. PC gaming in the 90s was such a joyful experience. Midnight Editor was the simplest of them to use, and allowed me to do what any teenager with access to a save editor would do. Unlock all the research, make all my agents incredibly powerful, and spend my time raiding Gravball League to play Elerium catch in the Gravball Stadium. Of course, if you wanted to make use of all that ill-gotten research, then it was a good idea to dive into the wonderful to pronounce xc3sged.com to give yourself a suitably large base to build all those buildings in. And then, because Apocalypse was always a little flaky after having research hacked into it, make those buildings actually buildable, without requiring external skullduggery to do so. Can you see why all the PC gamers of my generation ended up becoming programmers yet? Besides correcting the loose ends left untied by other editors, buried deep in the keyboard-based menus of Epoch were some more interesting options: the weapon and equipment definitions. If there's one thing I love more than playing games badly, it's breaking them wide open. Think personal shields aren't quite powerful enough? How about making them one by one, so agents can carry huge numbers of them and wander around dispatching aliens with impunity? Providing said aliens don't carry entropy launchers, a particularly frustrating challenge from Apocalypse's late game. While less of a do-it-all tool, Overkill opened up the opportunity to do something even more fun: meddling with the settings for power and explosion radius. How about an autocannon, where each round has the power of a missile launcher? That would be fun, right? It's not like corporations get angry if we destroy so much as a few pointless walls between adjacent apartments, eh? Ah, yes, in this game they do. Of course, none of that matters if you're only a few reboots into Windows and back into DOS away from cheating in so much money you're able to pay any accidental destruction bill that comes your way, and also use said editor to repair any relationships that don't improve to your liking through ill-gotten cash alone. And besides increasing XCOM's destruction-related expenses significantly, you'll also be unlocking the full potential of what I think is the best feature of XCOM Apocalypse. One which I don't think has been equalled in any XCOM game since. Destructible scenery. Really destructible scenery. This is the thing which impressed me about Apocalypse when I bought it, and continues to impress me. More so now I'm aware of how limited the computers of the time were. Scenery which can be procedurally destroyed, and even causes damage and injuries in correct proportion to its weight on the way down. Yes, if you're looking at it with modern eyes, we've had several red factions since, although it's only Fred Action and Space Arsehole which started doing proper procedural collapse physics, rather than merely destructible walls. Even those don't offer all of the tactical possibilities XCOM brings, including fire which spreads across flammable surfaces, and generates smoke which, as you'd expect, obscures visibility and lets you hide your units from prying alien eyes. Well, a smoke grenade might be a better idea if you want your units merely hidden, and not also on fire. Of course, if we're allowing modern games, if you want fire, smoke and total freeform destruction beyond merely dismantling a small building with a couple of catwalks, there's Teardown. Specifically, modded Teardown. But while this level of destruction is undoubtedly impressive, it also involves melting a GTX 3070 every time you set off those explosive charges. When I'm talking about Apocalypse, I'm talking about a game which ran convincingly well on a fast 486, which in modern computing terms, and the general area of attempting to simulate something like Teardown, is about the same as telling your boss, you'll be a bit late to work today, because you're commuting in via continental drift. It's not just a few canned effects Apocalypse is showing either. If you're patient, and none of the hostile units flee before you've finished, it's possible to surgically remove all of the support from one of the more precarious slum buildings, and watch the entire thing collapse. Albeit somewhat slowly if you're at the low end of the hardware requirements, as this much destruction was just as 486 melting in its time, as Teardown is GPU melting today. But how does this work? Well, I can give away a clue by showing some of that collapse. It's clear that while we get some satisfying procedural destruction, this is far from a detailed structural simulation. Each tile is collapsing, well, tile by tile. For each tile on the map, Apocalypse tracks a set of variables including its weight, its strength, and how fast you can walk over it, or how many turn units it takes, if you're a traditionalist and refuse to touch the real-time mode. Among these variables, one's called provide support and get support. No, this isn't two sides of a Cartman drama triangle, destructive though that particular interaction may be. Get support is a simple integer value for which direction a tile is supported from, the four compass directions, and then up or down. One single direction per tile, unless it's marked as independent of physics effects entirely. When that tile is destroyed or starts falling, the tiles around it are checked to see if there's still an undamaged tile in their support direction. If there isn't, those tiles will also start falling, which causes a chain reaction, and also the effect we see, where large areas of tiles detach in long strips when an entire building collapses. It's a simple system, but also a clever one. The CPU only needs to check a few surrounding tiles for anything affected by an explosion, rather than the whole map. And while there can be a bit of slowdown if many tiles are falling at the same time, this only really happens if you've modded your game or are doing something stupid. And for most explosions in an unmodded game, so much is going on you'll barely notice the slight stall in amongst all the other action. Not least because when an explosion like that goes off without a handy save editor around, you're going to be pausing the game to figure out what to do next. Even if it's only working out what stiff drink to have ready for when Megapol send the repair bill. This building collapse system is one of the features of Apocalypse which made it stand out for me. Whether it's opening up new tactical opportunities while playing the game properly, such as collapsing a bridge which has a number of aliens on it, or making a new entrance to a room which previously had just the one door, or indeed messing around with a modded game to see what the destruction effects can do, it's an impressive technical feat, and adds a lot to gameplay. Combined with all the other systems, it gave the game an incredible sense of detail, adding life to the city. Did I mention that said city is destructible too? Dangerously so. If XCOM have a base beneath an unstable and easily damaged building, it'll be wiped out if said building collapses. Not such a good idea, when late-game alien units turn up with the sole aim of destroying as much of the cityscape as possible. Especially if that base happens to be your only remaining base. I'll openly admit, Apocalypse may be flawed in places. Some of the alien models are famously wonky, and there were clearly creative ideas which never got implemented for the release version, making it feel rough around the edges and a little unfinished when you bump up against something which got cut. But the joy of destroying the game world, both inside and outside of the game, is what makes Apocalypse my favourite XCOM. Well, that and the real time. Sorry, purists.